The ballroom of the Fortune Tech annual gala gleamed with champagne flutes and camera flashes. Power dressed in tuxedos, money draped in silk. Noah Malone, CEO of the billion-dollar Malone Systems, stood by the marble staircase, polished, composed, untouchable, until a little boy ran across the floor with a red balloon. Noah's gaze followed instinctively. The child's face turned as he laughed, and time slammed into him like a fist to the chest. Same caramel skin, same sharp jawline, same wide, alert eyes he used to see in the mirror at age 5. The balloon floated up, forgotten. Noah didn't move, didn't blink. His heart didn't race. It stopped. And then he saw her, Malia Rivera, the woman he hadn't heard from in 6 years, the woman who once worked at his side, the woman who vanished, and the woman who, apparently, took his son with her. Have you ever looked into a child's eyes and known, without explanation, that they belong to you? Have you ever had someone leave without a word, and you convinced yourself you didn't care, only to discover that their absence shaped you more than their presence ever did? What would you do if someone returned, unannounced, holding a truth you never expected, but always feared? Noah Malone built an empire from precision. No mistakes, no emotions, no attachments, except one, Malia. She was the only person who ever touched the parts of him the world wasn't allowed to see. And she left him. No letter, no call, no warning, just disappeared. Now, she stood 10 feet away, holding the hand of a boy who mirrored him so deeply that DNA wasn't needed. Noah couldn't breathe. His past had walked back into his life, with tiny sneakers and a 6-year-old's smile. What happened between Noah and Malia? Why did she run? And why didn't she tell him he had a son? This isn't just a story about reunion. It's about choices, consequences, and the kind of love that never really dies, even when it's buried. Stay with this story, because what happens next isn't a cliché. It's real, it's raw, and it will test the limits of forgiveness, trust, and love. Noah didn't approach. He couldn't. His legs wouldn't move. Malia's eyes met his. The room, once full of noise, went silent in his head. She looked older, but still beautiful. Her curls were tied back, her dress modest, her lips slightly parted in shock. She hadn't expected to see him. She didn't smile. She didn't look away. Neither did he. The boy tugged at her hand, asking for juice. She nodded absently. And then she turned, walked away, taking the boy, his son, with her. Again, would you chase the past if it still carried your future? If someone vanished with your child, would you forgive them if they came back changed? Like, share, comment, and subscribe. This is one you'll want to see through to the end. Malia Rivera didn't speak unless she had to. She believed in efficiency, quiet competence, and clear lines. She wore navy blazers with soft blouses and flat shoes that let her move. Across the 32nd floor of Malone Industries, without noise or fuss. The men upstairs noticed her. She was stunning, but they stopped short of making passes. One memo from the CEO's office had made the rules clear. Anyone who disrespected her was out. What they didn't know was this. Noah Malone had written that memo himself. Noah wasn't known for kindness. He was known for control. His empire had grown in silence, with the kind of relentlessness that made people afraid to say no. He'd taken a crumbling financial software firm and turned it into a global tech powerhouse. His board respected him. His competitors hated him. His staff feared him. But Malia? She was the only one who'd ever told him to relax his tone. And he listened. She had been his executive assistant for 8 months when it happened. 8 months of planning his calendar, running damage control with investors, proofreading speeches he refused to rehearse, and watching him slowly become less of a tyrant when she was near. Their first personal conversation had happened in a town car on the way to a client pitch in DC. "You read poetry?" he asked, looking at her tablet. "Sometimes," she said. "You read in silence. You speak in precision. It's surprising. I find people say too much when they're nervous. Silence doesn't mean ignorance." He had smiled. "You sound like my father." Is that good or bad? He looked out the window. He died 10 years ago. I've been trying to forget him ever since. From that moment, something unspoken began. The turning point came during a conference in Chicago. Their hotel rooms were booked on the same floor. A snowstorm trapped most guests indoors. The meeting was cancelled. She knocked on his door to hand him updated notes. He opened shirtless, still drying his hair. Malia blinked once. You should reschedule your call with Devlin. He's stuck at O'Hare. He stared at her, then stepped back. Come in. It's freezing. I'll stay at the door. Don't worry. I'm not reckless. And I'm not stupid enough to make you uncomfortable. She hesitated, then stepped inside. He poured her tea. She sat. They talked. About nothing at first. Then, everything. His father's cruelty. Her mother's absence. The way ambition could harden people. That night, he didn't touch her. But he listened like no one ever had. A week later, back in New York, he walked into her office and closed the door. No one knows this, he said, but my mother's already chosen my future wife. Malia raised her brow. Is this a complaint or a confession? A threat, he replied, because I'm about to make the worst professional decision of my life. He walked over to her, placed one hand on the edge of her desk, leaned close and whispered, I want you. She stood, calm as always. You're my boss. I'll stop being that. If that's what it takes, you'd ruin your image for me. I'd ruin my whole empire if it meant I could have peace. She swallowed. You're not used to women saying no, are you? He smiled faintly. I'm not used to women meaning it. Silence. Then she stepped closer. I won't quit, but if we cross that line, we keep it out of the office. No drama, no slip-ups. And if you turn cold or careless, I walk. He didn't blink. I don't turn cold, Malia. I turn possessive. She didn't flinch. That night, he showed up at her apartment in a black coat and silence. She opened the door, said nothing, and let him in. He kissed her like a man who didn't know softness, and she kissed him like a woman who didn't believe in letting go once she was in. The months that followed were stolen. They never showed up at events together. She entered elevators after he left them. When they traveled, their rooms were always booked under aliases, but on the same floor. He would brush his hand across her lower back as they passed in corridors. She would leave notes in his briefcase. They never said I love you, but it was there, in the way she corrected his temper with a single raised brow, in the way he silenced every room when she walked in. She had access to his life, his moods, his meetings, his schedules, but never to his future. One night, after a charity gala, they lay side by side in his penthouse. He stared at the ceiling. What if we made this public? You'd lose board support. Your mother would lose her mind. I'm 38. I don't need approval, but you need control. He looked at her. You don't want to be known? I don't want to be used or erased. He reached for her hand. You're the only thing in my life that's real. She turned away. Then act like it. She left early that morning. When he woke up, she was gone. No note, no text, just silence. By spring, their secret had become the only thing that felt real in both their lives. Malia no longer felt like just an executive assistant. She was the woman Noah Malone came home to, the one he trusted with the details he shared with no one, not his board, not his mother, not even his CFO. But that truth only existed in private. Publicly, she remained invisible. And that silence began to cost her. Their stolen weekends in upstate New York were filled with touch and laughter. He taught her how to cook steak, poorly. She taught him how to sit still and watch movies without checking email. He would rest his head in her lap and admit fears he never dared say aloud. I don't know how to stop, he once whispered. Stop what? Competing. For power. For approval. For more. She stroked his hair. You don't have to be better than your father. You're already better than the man you were yesterday. But those soft moments never reached Monday mornings. Once they were back in the glass towers of Manhattan, he snapped into CEO mode. Commanding. Cold. Distant. And she hated it. By June, things had shifted. He was pulling away, not in presence, but in tenderness. She noticed it first in the little things. He stopped replying to her nightly check-to in texts. He started bringing his phone into bed. He stopped holding her face when they kissed. Malia didn't say anything at first. She watched, waited, observed like she always did, until one Thursday night she snapped. "Noah," she said, stepping into his office after hours, "am I a secret or a shame?" He looked up from his laptop, blinking like she'd slapped him. "What? You heard me." He closed the lid slowly. "Where's this coming from? You haven't touched me in days. We were in Chicago 4 days ago. We haven't really touched." He stood. "I've been slammed." "No," she cut in. "You've been distant. You've been disappearing behind your calendar again. You say you want me, but I'm starting to feel like a placeholder." He ran a hand through his hair. "You knew what this was." "Did I?" Her voice cracked. "Because I thought I was building something real with you. And now I'm realizing I've just been making it easier for you to survive between meetings." That stung. He stepped toward her. "Malia, stop." "No, you stop," she whispered. "Stop acting like I'm just some calm in your storm. I'm not a tool, Noah. I'm not one of your apps." His jaw flexed. "That's not how I see you." "Then prove it." "How?" "Introduce me to your mother." Silence. Noah turned away, walking toward the window. The city glittered outside, uncaring. "You know what she's like," he said. "She'll turn you into gossip before she even learns your name." "So?" Malia's voice rose. "Let her. Let them all. She'll use it to manipulate me. She always does. This isn't about us. It's about protecting what we've built." "No," Malia said bitterly. "You're protecting what you built. I was never part of it." He turned sharply. "That's not fair. Neither is hiding me." He stared at her for a long, painful moment, then picked up his laptop. "That's all I have to give tonight." She nodded once. Then, "I guess I've already taken too much." She left his office. He didn't follow. The next day, she came to work like nothing happened. Her hair was in a bun. Her blouse was crisp. Her notes were sharp. Noah didn't say a word. Neither did she. 2 weeks passed. No contact outside of office tasks. No late-night texts. No quiet dinners. But they both felt it. The slow death of something that once pulsed with fire. Then came the shareholders' meeting. Noah left for DC early in the morning. When he returned that night, exhausted and irritable, he asked his driver to reroute, straight to Malia's place. He needed to fix it. But when he got there, her apartment was empty. Lights off. Door locked. No reply to his messages. No voicemail. Back at the office, her desk was clear, and on his table, a single manila envelope. Inside, and her resignation letter, an office keycard, and a note in her neat handwriting, "You knew how to hold the world in your hands. But you never learned how to hold me." New Orleans, 6 weeks later. Malia Rivera stood barefoot in the center of her aunt's small kitchen, staring at the test strip in her hand. Positive. Her throat tightened. The late periods, the fatigue, the quiet changes she'd pushed aside, all confirmed by 2 pink lines. She sat down slowly, her hand trembling as she placed the test on the table. Not fear, not regret, something deeper, something quiet. She was carrying Noah Malone's child. When she left New York, she had only 3 things in her backpack: her passport, a flash drive, with savings, and the resignation letter she knew would hurt him more than silence ever could. She didn't want revenge. She wanted peace. And peace didn't exist in skyscrapers and marble boardrooms where she had to schedule emotions between quarterly reports. She had begged Noah, repeatedly, to stop hiding her, to stop letting his mother pull his strings, to fight for her like she fought to keep their love grounded, but he wouldn't. So she left before she lost herself completely. Now, her life was no longer just hers. She had to think for 2. Her aunt, Carmen Rivera, opened the back door, brushing powdered sugar off her apron. "You okay, baby girl?" Malia nodded, but her eyes betrayed her. Carmen looked down at the test on the table and sat beside her. Quiet, warm, present. Do you want to go back to him? Carmen asked gently. Malia didn't answer right away. She thought about his eyes when he was vulnerable, the way he pulled her close in sleep, like she might disappear if he didn't. The rare smile he saved only for her. She also remembered the way he looked past her in meetings, the way she sat in the background, unacknowledged, the way his mother once passed her at a dinner and asked if she was the new receptionist. No, Malia whispered. I don't want to go back to that life. Not for him, and not for this baby. Carmen reached out, squeezing her hand. Then stay. This house is small, but it's full of love. She got a job waiting tables at her aunt's cafe. Simple work, honest work. She read parenting books at night, watched YouTube videos about single moms, and cried softly into her pillow when the weight of it all felt like too much. Noah never called. He never emailed. She never told him. Some nights, she rehearsed the words in her head. I'm pregnant. It's yours. But I'm keeping him away from your world. Other nights, she wondered if he'd even notice if she did call. But deep down, she knew he would have fought. He would have tried to fix it. He would have taken control. And the last thing she wanted was to watch her child grow up as another asset in Noah Malone's corporate life. At 15 weeks, she felt the baby kick. It was faint, barely there, but enough to make her cry again. This time, she smiled through the tears. At 28 weeks, she had a scare. False labor. She clutched her belly in the back of a cab and prayed, not to any specific God, just to the future, to the child, to her own strength. The baby was fine, but that night, Malia stood in the window of her small rented room and whispered to her belly, I don't care if your father is a billionaire. I don't care if he never sees you. You will never feel invisible. Not like I did. Micah was born on a cloudy Thursday. No luxury suite, no private doctors, just Carmen holding her hand and telling her to breathe. He came out wailing, tiny fists in the air, eyes wide and fierce. She laughed even as she sobbed. Micah, her strength, her reason, her second chance. The first year was hard. Noah's name never escaped her lips. When people asked about the father, she simply said, gone. She refused child support, refused media attention, kept her surname. She raised Micah with lullabies, bedtime stories, and pancakes shaped like dinosaurs. He was brilliant, observant, funny, and every once in a while he'd tilt his head a certain way and her heart would ache, because he looked so much like Noah. But she didn't regret anything, not a single moment. Micah's third birthday was a quiet affair. Carmen baked cupcakes. A few neighbors brought gifts. He opened a book on oceans and stared at the pictures with awe. Mommy, he said suddenly, when I grow up, I want to build something really, really big. Like what? He pointed to the page. A city with computers and robots. And everything. Malia kissed his forehead. I believe you. She tucked the book into his arms and carried him to bed. Once he was asleep, she sat beside him, brushing his curls gently back. You are everything, she whispered, and you'll never need to chase someone else's name to feel worthy. By the time Micah turned 4, Malia had created a rhythm. Breakfast by 7, cafe shift from 8 to 2, story time at the library on Tuesdays, afternoons spent painting, building cardboard castles, or running around City Park. Bedtime at 8:30 sharp, followed by a deep exhale and 1 glass of red wine in silence. Her world was simple, but whole. She didn't miss luxury. She missed companionship sometimes, but never noise, never chaos, never being someone's secret. Every now and then, Carmen would catch her staring out the window. She wouldn't interrupt. But once, she asked gently, still thinking about him? Malia shook her head. I'm not thinking about him. I'm thinking about how easily I could have ended up in his world, raising Micah in someone else's blueprint. Carmen studied her. You don't ever think he deserved to know? Silence. Then deserved? Maybe. But I don't owe him anything if he was never willing to fight for us. She meant every word. Still, the questions stayed with her. Micah started asking questions when he was 5. Where's my daddy? It was inevitable. Malia knelt beside him, heart pounding, and answered the best way she could. Some people have both parents together. Some have one, some have none. You have a mommy who loves you every second of every day. Micah blinked. But do I have a dad? She paused. Yes, you do. He frowned. Where is he? He lives far away. But I promise you this, if one day you want to know more, I'll be honest with you. That was all he needed. For now. But she knew the day was coming when far away wouldn't be enough. At the cafe, people noticed Micah's manners, his quick mind, his smile. He held the door open for strangers and helped his mom stock napkins. He asked customers if they liked their muffins. One customer joked, "He acts like he owns the place." Another whispered, "That boy's got charm." Big boss energy. Malia smiled, but inside, it stung. Because charm like that didn't grow in quiet kitchens. It came from DNA, and she couldn't stop him from becoming a little version of the man she once loved. She could only shape the way he used that charm, with kindness. At 6, Micah won a local spelling bee. The prize, a free ticket to the city's tech showcase for kids. Malia hesitated at first. It was crowded, loud, full of people and tech investors. But Micah wanted to go so badly. So they went. And for the first time in years, she stepped into a room filled with the kind of energy she'd once been, surrounded by men in sleek suits, women with clipped voices, high-stakes pitches, flashing screens. It brought her back to late nights at Malone Systems. Elevator rides with Noah, watching him command rooms, with nothing but his voice and gaze. She looked down at Micah, who was staring wide-eyed at a robotic arm that poured juice. "I want to build something like that one day," he said. She smiled. "You will," but her stomach twisted, because as much as she wanted him to find his future, she didn't want him to find the man she left behind. That night, after Micah fell asleep, Malia sat on the porch with Carmen. "I saw something in him today," she said softly. "Something I haven't seen in a long time." "In Micah?" She nodded. "In his focus, his excitement, his spark. It's Noah's. The way he talks about building, creating, achieving." Carmen didn't say anything. Malia sipped her tea. "I know I did what I had to do," she continued. "But sometimes I wonder if I made the choice for me, or out of fear." "You made it out of love," Carmen said gently. "And that's never the wrong reason. But love didn't erase doubt. Especially not when Micah asked again the following week, "Did my dad build big things too?" Malia nodded slowly. "Yes, baby. He did." "Like what?" "Companies. Technology. He helped a lot of people work better." Micah's eyes lit up. "Cool." Malia laughed. "Yeah, it is." He climbed into her lap. "Do you think, if I built something really cool, he'd want to see it?" Her heart caught. "I think anyone would be proud of what you do," she whispered, and she hugged him tighter than ever before. The next morning, Carmen handed her a printed flyer from the cafe's bulletin board. Tech Innovation Summit. This Saturday. Keynote speaker, Noah Malone. Malia's hand went cold. "What?" "He's coming to New Orleans. Guess he's investing in local startups now. He's giving a speech at the Civic Center. The date, 2 days from now, just across the park." Micah had begged to go back to that expo. And Noah would be there. Malia folded the paper carefully and slid it into her pocket. She didn't say a word. Not yet. Not even to herself. Back in Manhattan, the office felt colder. Not because of the temperature, but because of the silence that followed Malia's absence. Her desk remained empty for days. Noah told HR to hold off on hiring a replacement. He didn't say why. He didn't explain the sudden resignation. He didn't explain anything. Because, truthfully, he couldn't. He just kept checking the door, half expecting her to walk back in and tell him she was kidding, that she just needed space, that she wasn't really gone. But she was. Noah didn't spiral publicly. He was too controlled for that. His board saw a sharper man, one who slashed underperforming departments, who closed 3 deals in 2 weeks, who worked past midnight and arrived before the janitors. To them, he was a machine. Efficient, brilliant, unshaken. To himself, he was something else, empty. He never said her name, not in meetings, not at home, not even when he was alone. But she was everywhere. The quiet space beside him in the car, the untouched wine glass on his dining table, the hand cream she'd once left in his bathroom. Her absence didn't echo. It clung. 3 months later, at a high-profile investor dinner, someone brought their new assistant, young, polished and flirty. She tried to spark conversation with Noah. He barely noticed her. He saw the red lipstick, but all he could think about was how Malia never wore red, only soft pinks and neutrals. She said red was too loud for someone who spent her life making others heard. He missed that. The quiet power, the calm in the noise. He excused himself early that night. When he got home, he took her necklace, the simple silver chain she once forgot on his nightstand, and tucked it in his desk drawer. He'd never open it again, but he couldn't throw it away. A year passed, then another. Noah's dating life became a PR prop. Photos with models, tech influencers, executives at galas, all smiles, all staged. None lasted. His mother asked once, "When are you going to settle down?" He didn't answer. She tried again. "You need a woman with presence, one who belongs at your side, not someone hiding behind a clipboard." He walked out before she finished. Because Malia never hid. She just never had permission to be seen. His assistant changed 3 times in 6 months. None measured up. Not in skill, not in instinct, not in loyalty. He finally stopped trying to replace her, and just started doing more of the work himself. At 37, he made Forbes' top 10 CEOs under 40 list. He was photographed in a steel grey suit, stoic, sharp. The caption read, "Malone, the relentless architect of precision." He laughed when he saw it, because the only thing he ever built with heart, not calculation, was already gone. On the 3rd anniversary of her disappearance, he traveled to Lisbon for a partnership summit. He arrived 2 days early and spent the first night doing something he hadn't done in years. Nothing. No briefings, no spreadsheets, no press. Just silence. He stood on the balcony, glass of bourbon in hand, and watched the sun set over the rooftops. For a moment, he remembered a lazy Sunday on Malia's couch, her head in his lap, a documentary playing, neither of them paying attention, and her voice barely above a whisper. "Don't forget what this feels like. Not every moment should be earned. Some should just be lived." He hadn't understood it then, but he did now, and it made him feel worse. Because he hadn't just lost her, he'd lost the parts of himself she brought out. When he returned to New York, he cleared his entire schedule for a week, told his team he needed space. They assumed it was burnout. It wasn't. It was morning, late morning. On a random Thursday, he searched her name online. No updates, no news, no social media. It was like she never existed. But he knew better. She existed in every boardroom where he snapped too quickly, in every morning where he stood too long at the mirror, wondering what he'd become. She was the weight in his chest when everything else felt weightless, and no matter how many millions he made, he couldn't buy peace, not the kind she brought, not the kind she left with. Noah Malone rarely took personal calls. His staff knew better. His colleagues avoided small talk. Even his mother got voicemail more than answers. But one Thursday afternoon, during a quarterly operations review, he stepped out mid-slide presentation. No explanation, because the call wasn't from a number he recognized. It was a child's voice. "Hello?" He froze. Is this Mr. Malone?" the boy asked. "Yes," Noah said slowly. "Who is this?" "I found this phone number in my book. It said for emergencies only." A soft voice interrupted in the background. Female, familiar. "Micah, baby, give me the phone." Click. The line went dead. Noah stared at the screen. Micah. His lungs tightened. Could it be? He didn't sleep that night. He paced, stared at the ceiling, tried to rationalize. Could be a mistake. Could be coincidence. But the voice, the name, the tone in the woman's voice, it rattled him. The next morning, he arrived at the office early and cleared his schedule, sat in his corner office with the city below, and pulled out his laptop. Searched again. Malia Rivera. Still nothing. No public records. No LinkedIn. No social trail. He didn't even know where to start. For a man who built an empire by tracking trends, numbers, and networks, he couldn't find the one person he'd once shared his life with. And now, a voice. Micah. It echoed in his mind all day, all night. 2 months later, during a dinner with venture partners, someone mentioned a tech development summit in New Orleans. Local innovation is exploding, the investor said. Young talent everywhere. Even the big guys are flying in now. Noah barely nodded. But when he returned home, he booked a ticket. No press, no staff, no PR coverage. Just one name on the registration, N. Malone. The first day of the summit, he sat in the back row, took notes, observed, disconnected from his image. And during a break, he stepped outside the civic center and looked across the street. There was a park, children running, sunlight flickering between leaves. He stayed there for a long time, just watching. That night, he ordered takeout and sat in his hotel room. Didn't work, didn't scroll, just stared at the quiet. The next morning, he skipped the keynote panel, went straight to the park, sat on a bench, watched a little boy kick a soccer ball alone while his mother unpacked snacks on a blanket nearby. The boy's laugh rang through the trees. Clear, light. Noah felt it before he saw it. That same voice. That same name. Micah, don't run too far. He turned his head slowly. There she was. Malia. Older, softer around the edges, still stunning. The curls he used to trace with his fingers now tied loosely. Her eyes hidden behind sunglasses. Her voice firm, warm. Micah ran up, took a juice pouch from her hands. She ruffled his hair. Noah's chest hollowed out. It wasn't a memory. It was happening. Real. Now. His son was right there. And so was she. He stood. Didn't think. Didn't breathe. Just walked. Across the grass, around the path, straight toward the moment that had haunted him for years. Malia looked up. Froze. Her hand stopped midair. The juice pouch slipped from her fingers. She didn't move. Didn't speak. Micah looked up at her. Mom? Her lips parted, but she didn't answer him, because Noah had reached them, and the only words he could find were, "You left." Malia's voice broke as she whispered, "You found us." The air between them pulsed with tension. Noah couldn't look away from the boy. His boy. Micah stood beside Malia, holding her hand tightly, confused but calm. The kind of calm that reminded Noah of Malia herself, unshaken even when the world shifted. Noah's voice faltered. "I didn't expect. You shouldn't be here," Malia said softly, not angry, just stunned. "I didn't come looking for you," he answered truthfully. "I didn't even know you were in New Orleans." She raised an eyebrow. "Yet here you are, standing in front of my son." At his park, Noah looked down at Micah again. "How old is he?" 6. His jaw flexed. 6. The math hit him hard. She had been pregnant when she left. His son had lived 6 entire years, first steps, first words, birthdays, without him. "You didn't tell me," Noah said, not accusing, just broken. Malia swallowed hard. "I wanted to," she said. "I wrote emails, deleted them, rehearsed calls, never made them. Why?" Her eyes didn't flinch. "Because I didn't trust who you were becoming." That stopped him. "What does that mean?" "You were shutting down, Noah. The tighter your grip on your world became, the less room there was for anyone else. You weren't a man in love. You were a man in survival mode, ruthless, cold, calculated." He didn't deny it. "I was building something, So was I, she said, pressing her hand lightly over her heart. I was building a life worth living. He looked at Micah again. The boy tilted his head, same as he did when he was curious. Does he know? Noah asked. Malia shook her head. No. A long pause. He thinks I'm gone? Noah asked, voice thin. He thinks you live far away. That's all I've told him. Noah crouched slowly, eye level with the child. Hi, Micah. The boy blinked. Hi. I know this is sudden, Noah continued gently. But I used to know your mom. A long time ago. Micah looked up at Malia for permission. She nodded once. Are you Mummy's friend? Noah hesitated. His chest ached. I'm someone really important. To her. And to you. Micah tilted his head. Are you a teacher? Noah smiled faintly. Not exactly. Then what are you? Malia's voice was barely a whisper. He's your dad, Micah. Silence. The kind that stretched wide and uncertain. Micah blinked again. My dad? Yes, sweetheart. Noah didn't reach for him. Didn't push. He just let the words sink. Micah looked at him again, this time slower. Okay, he said simply. Cool. Noah's throat tightened. He almost laughed, almost cried. Yeah, he whispered. Cool. They sat on the grass for a while after that. Micah munched on crackers while Malia explained things in soft pieces. That Noah lived in New York. That he used to build big things. That he hadn't known Micah existed until today. The boy accepted it all without panic or tears. Are you mad at Mommy? He asked suddenly, looking up at Noah. Noah blinked. No, never. Micah nodded. Good. 'Cause she makes the best pancakes. Noah smiled. I believe that. Eventually, Malia stood. Micah had wandered to the sandbox, chatting with another child. She looked at Noah. Don't show up at the cafe. Don't follow us. Let me think. Noah stood too. I'm not here to ruin anything. She folded her arms. But you're here to stay. I don't know what that means yet. But I know I'm not leaving. He paused. You don't have to open the door all the way, Malia. Just crack it. She looked at him, really looked, and after a long, quiet breath, she nodded. I'll call you. Then she walked away. Micah waved as they left the park. Noah raised a hand in return. His world, his real world, had just turned 6 years old, and it had his eyes. 3 days passed. No call, no text, no knock at his hotel door. Noah waited, quietly. He didn't chase. He didn't press. He gave her the one thing he had never offered before, space. And then, late Thursday afternoon, his phone lit up. Malia Rivera, come by the cafe after closing. 8:15. Side door. He stared at the message for a long time, then replied simply, I'll be there. The cafe was dim when he arrived. Chairs stacked, lights low, the scent of lemon and flower still lingering in the air. She was behind the counter, wiping down trays, sleeves rolled, curls pinned up, tired in a way that only a working mother could be. She didn't look up. Lock the door behind you. He did, silently, then stood, waiting. She finished cleaning the tray, rinsed her hands, and finally turned. No makeup, no pretense, just her. He swallowed. Thank you. For what? For letting me in. I haven't, she said flatly. Not fully. I know. She crossed her arms. You've been silent for 3 days. You told me not to follow. And if I hadn't texted you, I would have waited until I grew old. She studied him. You've changed, she murmured. I had no choice, he said. You took my peace with you. That quiet stopped her. For the first time in years, she softened. You said once that you'd ruin your whole empire if it meant having peace. I didn't understand what peace really was back then. And now? He stepped closer. It's a small cafe. A kid with wild questions. A woman who looks at me and sees the version of myself I forgot. She blinked. I'm not trying to pick up where we left off, he added, because where we left off was broken. He paused. I want something new. Something real. Malia exhaled. You think you're ready to be a father? Or are you here because guilt showed up in a playground? He didn't flinch. I'm here because I've lived with your silence longer than I lived with your love. And I'm still not done choosing you. That silenced her. And then she laughed. Dry. Unexpected. You used to hate being vulnerable, she said. I still do. But here you are. Because this matters more than pride. She leaned against the counter, arms still crossed. I don't know what you're expecting. A clean slate? A welcome back kiss? No, he said. I'm expecting you to be honest. About what you need. About what Micah needs. Malia's jaw tensed. Micah needs stability. He needs consistency. And he needs to know that showing up once doesn't make someone a parent. Then I'll keep showing up. Until when? Until you stop looking over your shoulder when you talk to me. Until Micah stops calling me that man and starts calling me something else. She stared at him. Tired, guarded, but no longer pushing him away. She reached under the counter and handed him a sticky note. My boundaries, she said. If you cross them, I shut the door. He unfolded it. No press. No gifts bigger than his backpack. And no promises Micah can't see you keep. No parenting decisions without me. He nodded. All fair. Malia's eyes flicked to his chest, then back up. You still wear the same watch. You bought it, he said. Of course I still wear it. Something flickered in her. A memory. A feeling. She looked away. Micah's birthday is in a month, she said quietly. Noah's breath caught. Can I be there? We'll see, she said. And that was more than he expected. Outside, the air had cooled. He walked slowly down the sidewalk, the sticky note still in his hand. He didn't have her heart back, but he had something just as rare, a second chance. Saturday morning. The cafe was closed for restocking. Carmen had taken the day off, and Malia had agreed, after a long pause, to let Noah spend a few hours with Micah. No big outing, no driver, no schedule, just a few quiet hours in the park. Noah arrived early, checked his watch 4 times before the door opened. Micah stepped out in a red hoodie, a superhero lunchbox in one hand and a juice pouch in the other. Hi, he said, squinting up at Noah. Hey, buddy. Malia stood behind him. No smile, but no tension either. He's eaten. Extra juice is in the bag. You've got until noon. Noah nodded. Got it. She crouched beside Micah. Remember what we talked about? Micah nodded. Listen, stay close, ask questions. She kissed his cheek. I'll be at the market if you need me. Then she turned to Noah. No surprises. I understand. And then she left. Just like that, Noah and his son were alone for the first time. They walked in silence at first. Micah kicked a pebble along the sidewalk. Noah cleared his throat. So, what do you like to do? Micah shrugged. Legos. Dinosaurs. I like numbers too. Numbers? Yeah. I'm learning multiplication. I'm really good. Noah smiled. You must have gotten that from me. Micah stopped walking. Are you smart? Noah chuckled. Some people think so. Are you rich? The question hit him sideways. I guess you could say that. Micah's face scrunched. Do you live in a castle? Not exactly. But it's tall, like a tower. Kind of. Micah nodded slowly. Cool. Noah tilted his head. You ask a lot of questions. I've never met a dad before. The honesty pierced straight through him. Noah crouched to meet his eyes. I don't have all the answers yet, but I want to be here to figure them out. With you. Micah looked at him seriously. Do you like grilled cheese? What? Grilled cheese. Because that's a deal breaker. Noah laughed for real this time. I love grilled cheese. Micah grinned. Cool. Let's go to the swings. At the park, they found a quiet corner. Noah helped Micah onto the swing, pushed him gently, back and forth, back and forth. It felt surreal, like touching something precious he thought he'd lost long ago. Micah asked him questions between swings. What's your favorite color? Gray. Gray's boring. Okay. Blue. Better. Do you have a dog? No. Do you want one? Micah nodded. But I want a cat too. You dream big. Micah smiled. Mom says, I always do. Noah paused. She's right. After a while, they sat on a park bench and shared snacks. Micah opened his superhero lunchbox, handed Noah half a sandwich. You're not allergic to peanut butter, right? Nope. Good. Then we can be lunch buddies. Noah bit down, suddenly aware of how much joy was packed into that tiny moment. This wasn't a business meeting. This wasn't a negotiation. This was fatherhood. And it wasn't something he could plan or manage or win. He just had to be present. They watched ducks by the pond. Micah leaned on Noah's side. Comfortable, safe. Did you miss me? He asked quietly. Noah blinked. I didn't know you existed. Oh. But if I had... Noah paused. I never would have stopped looking. Micah nodded. Okay. Just one word. But it meant everything. Noah swallowed hard. Micah leaned into him again. And they sat there, a father and son, building something wordless and new. From the edge of the market across the street, Malia watched. She told herself she was just checking in. She had errands, groceries, things to do, but her eyes stayed fixed on the park bench where Micah leaned comfortably into Noah's side. And Noah? He wasn't faking it. No show, no phone in hand, no power suit or cold mask. He looked present and more human than she remembered. It unsettled her and moved her. All at once, Noah glanced up once and saw her. She didn't hide. She gave him a slow nod, permission to continue, then walked away before she changed her mind. Back at the cafe, she wiped the counter more than necessary. Carmen came in from the back with 2 crates of flour and stopped when she saw Malia. You saw him with the boy? Malia nodded. And? They looked like they belonged together. Carmen raised a brow. That's not a bad thing. It is when it feels easier than it should. Carmen set the flour down. You can't control the past, Malia, but you can control whether you keep dragging it into the future. Malia exhaled. I just don't know if I can trust what he's showing me, or if he's just good at wearing whatever face gets the job done. Well, Carmen said gently, he didn't run when you gave him boundaries. That's worth watching. Noah and Micah returned around noon, as agreed. Micah bounced through the cafe door, holding a tiny rock painted with blue stars. Mommy, look what we found. It's a friendship rock. Malia smiled. That's beautiful, baby. Micah turned to Noah. Can we go again tomorrow? Malia spoke up before Noah could answer. Micah, let's take it one day at a time, okay? Micah nodded, a little deflated. Go wash up before lunch, she added. Once he was gone, she turned to Noah. Well, he said. He's brilliant, kind, funny. He's got your heart. He's got your questions. They both smiled at that. Silence followed, until Noah said quietly, Thank you. For today. I didn't do it for you. I know. That's why it meant something. Malia studied him. I don't want him confused. Neither do I. I don't want him hurt. I'd never let that happen. She looked at him, long and hard. Noah, don't make promises just because it sounds good in the moment. I'm not, he said. I'm making one because I've already failed him once. I won't do it again. Later that night, as Malia folded laundry in her bedroom, Micah walked in, dragging his blanket. Mummy, yeah, baby? Why didn't I have a daddy before? Her hands froze. She sat on the bed and pulled him into her lap. You always had one, she said softly. You just hadn't met him yet. Do you like him? She smiled faintly. I used to. Do you still? I don't know. Micah looked up. I do. She kissed his forehead. That's what matters right now. And as she watched him drift to sleep, her heart whispered something she didn't want to admit yet. She wasn't just watching a father and son bond. She was watching a man become someone worth believing in again. Have you ever seen a man try, not with money, not with words, but with presence? Some fathers show up late. Some never show at all. But others? They show up when it matters most, and never stop. If you believe being a dad is about consistency, not DNA, hit the like button. Drop a comment. What does real fatherhood mean to you? And if this story reminds you of someone who's trying to be better, share it with them. Because sometimes a second chance at fatherhood is the beginning of a new life. Don't forget to subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories for more real love, real life, and stories that stay with you. Noah adjusted his calendar. For the first time in years, Investor Summit and board brief didn't take priority. Instead, his morning started with one fixed entry, breakfast with Micah. It wasn't formal. Micah didn't care for suits, meetings, or money talk. He cared about who could pour cereal without spilling, who laughed at his knock-knock jokes, and who showed up, even when no one was watching. Noah was learning. Slowly. At the local bookstore, Noah stood awkwardly in the children's section. Micah ran up with a stack of books. This one's about planets. This one's about sharks. This one has jokes. Noah crouched. You read all these? Not yet, Micah said proudly. But I will. Noah smiled. Let's get them all. Micah's eyes lit up. Even the joke one. Especially the joke one. They read two on the bench outside before leaving. At dinner that week, Micah spilled orange juice. Noah reached for a napkin without flinching. Malia noticed. You're getting better at this, she said. Which part? The part where you don't act like a broken glass ruins the world. He chuckled. I used to think a stain on a table was a crisis. Micah looked between them. You guys are weird. Malia and Noah laughed at the same time. It felt easy. One afternoon, Noah offered to help Micah with a school project, building a solar system model. He brought over a box of supplies, including a 3D printed Mars he had custom ordered. Micah frowned. Why's it already done? I thought it would help. Micah shook his head. I want to do it myself. Noah paused, then nodded. Okay. He pulled off his jacket, rolled up his sleeves, sat on the floor with glue and string and stickers, sticky fingers, crooked planets, messy, perfect. When they finished, Micah grinned. You helped, but you didn't take over. Noah stared at him, stunned. That one sentence struck deeper than any boardroom compliment ever had. Later that night, Malia found Noah outside on the porch, staring at the sky. She handed him a cup of tea. He likes you, she said. I'm afraid he'll start loving me, then I'll mess it up. That's what real parenting feels like, she replied. You love them, scared. He looked at her. I don't know how to be this version of myself all the time. You don't have to. Just don't fake it. He nodded slowly. I used to think power meant never needing anyone. Now I know it means knowing who's worth needing. Malia didn't reply. She just sipped her tea and stayed beside him, not as his past, but maybe as part of whatever he was becoming. Micah's school held Parent Day that Friday. Each child had to bring a family member to read a book aloud in class. Malia planned to go, as she always did. But when she told Micah, he paused. Can Noah come too? She looked up from the dishes. You want both of us there? Yeah. We could read together. You can do the voices. He can do the hard words. Malia smiled. You think he'd like that? He likes me, right? She kissed his forehead. More than anything. Noah showed up early that day. No cameras, no suit. Just jeans, a light sweater, and a book Micah had picked, The Boy Who Built Stars. He looked almost nervous. You ready for this? Malia asked as they walked in. I've closed IPOs in front of 200 people and never sweated like this, he muttered. She grinned. Micah lit up when he saw them. They read together, passing the book back and forth. Malia did the voices. Noah read the bigger words. Micah laughed so hard he had to sit down. The teacher smiled. The other parents watched. And for a moment, they looked like a unit. Not a broken story, but a rebuilt one. Afterward, they walked Micah home together. He held both their hands. And at one point, Noah looked down and said, This is the best thing I've done all week. Micah looked up. Better than your job? Way better. Malia saw it. Not a line. Not for show. Just truth. Later that night, after Micah fell asleep, Noah stayed for tea again. Malia sat across from him, studying his face. "You're different." He nodded. "I had to be. I couldn't live in the version of myself you left." She tilted her head. "You don't seem angry that I left." "I was. For a long time. And now I'm angry at the man who gave you every reason to—" Her breath caught. That wasn't a performance. That was remorse, real and raw. "I wanted to tell you," she said quietly. "When I found out I was pregnant, I wanted to call, to scream, to cry. But every time I picked up the phone, I remembered how cold you'd become. I would have fought for you," he said. "I know," she whispered. "That's what scared me. Silence." He reached for her hand, not forcefully, not possessively, just open. She let him hold it, and neither of them moved. Outside, the moon rose quietly. Inside, something old began to heal. Not perfectly, but honestly, Malia didn't sleep that night. Not from fear, from reality. Noah had changed. She could see that. But the part of her that survived leaving him years ago still didn't trust easily. Her peace had been hard-earned, and now the man she once loved, the man who once broke her by standing still, was moving gently back into their lives. And that scared her more than she wanted to admit. The next morning, while wiping down tables before opening, Carmen placed a tray of muffins on the counter and said calmly, "I saw him kiss your hand last night." Malia looked up sharply. Carmen wasn't judging. She was observing. And I need to know if this is about healing or falling again. Malia exhaled. "I don't know yet." Carmen wiped her hands on her apron. "You left for a reason. Not because he didn't love you, but because his love came with conditions, silence, hiding, sacrifices." "I know." "Has that changed?" Malia didn't answer. Carmen didn't press, but her words lingered. That afternoon, Micah drew a picture during quiet time. It showed 3 stick figures, one tall, one medium, one small. They were holding hands. The small one had a red balloon. The tall one had Dad written above it. When Malia tucked him into bed that night, he whispered, "I like when he reads to me. His voice sounds like the stories are real." Malia sat beside him for a long time after he drifted off. The Noah she knew years ago would have never made space for bedtime stories. But this Noah did. Still, she wasn't ready to call it love again. The next morning, it happened. Noah's mother called. Malia hadn't spoken to her in years, but the woman's number hadn't changed. She answered by mistake. "Hello. I assume you've decided to insert yourself back into my son's life." Malia's grip on the phone tightened. "Hello, Mrs. Malone. You were wise to disappear once. Don't make the mistake of believing his kindness now means permanence." Malia didn't flinch. "I'm not here to be permanent. I'm here to protect my son." The voice hardened. "Micah is a Malone by blood. We don't hide bloodlines." Malia snapped back, cool and steady. "You never saw me as good enough. That hasn't changed. But here's what has. I no longer need your approval. And what if I decide to fight for custody?" Malia's chest burned, but her voice never shook. "Try it. You'll lose." She ended the call, sat in silence, and cried, not from fear, but from fury. That evening, Noah arrived to pick up Micah for a movie. Malia met him at the door. "We need to talk." Malia didn't ask Noah to come inside. She stepped onto the porch, closing the door softly behind her. Micah was inside, finishing a puzzle, unaware. Noah saw the look in her eyes, steady but no longer open. "What happened?" he asked. "Your mother called me." His face tightened. "What did she say?" "She threatened custody, called Micah a Malone by blood, told me not to confuse your affection with permanence." Noah's hands clenched at his sides. "I'm sorry. I don't need an apology. I need to know where you stand." He nodded once, then stepped back, pulled out his phone, and called. "Mama," he said firmly when she picked up. "Don't ever contact Malia again." Her voice came through the speaker. "Noah, I'm doing what's best. What's best is letting me be the father I should have been 6 years ago. She hid him from you. And I hid her from you first. Silence. I love my son. I will protect him. And I will never again let your pride threaten what matters. He hung up. No theatrics. No drama. Just a choice. Malia stared at him. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. He stepped forward. I spent years letting her dictate what love was allowed in my life. I let her rewrite my boundaries. That ends now. Her voice softened. What changed? You, he said. Micah me. All of it. She blinked, emotions swelling behind her eyes. Noah continued. You don't have to forgive me overnight, and I don't expect anything from you except the chance to show up again and again. I'm not just trying to be better. I'm choosing to be. Malia exhaled. You say it like it's easy. It's not, he admitted. But every time I look at Micah, I see the person I should have been all along, and I want to be that man now, even if it means earning my place, one slow day at a time. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. She just opened the door, and this time, she didn't stop him from walking through. Micah lit up. You ready for the movie? Noah smiled. Absolutely. As they left, Malia stood in the doorway, watching, wondering, and for the first time in years, hoping, not for the past to return, but for a future they could all walk into together. Micah was asleep by 8:15. Movie night had left him full of popcorn, laughter, and sleepy smiles. Malia tucked him in, brushed his curls off his forehead, and kissed his cheek like she did every night. But tonight felt different. He didn't ask for a story, just whispered, I'm glad he came. Malia stood in his doorway for a while, listening to the sound of his soft breathing. In the living room, Noah waited with a glass of water in his hands. He didn't look like a CEO. He looked like a man figuring it out, slowly, honestly, and without a script. I can head out, he said when she returned. Malia shook her head. You can stay for a while. I haven't eaten. He followed her into the kitchen. She moved easily, pulling out leftovers. He helped without asking, grabbing plates, heating things up, washing his hands like he'd done it 100 times. They didn't talk much, didn't need to. The quiet was natural, not the uncomfortable kind they used to have when everything was buried under tension, but the kind that says, you're safe here. They sat across from each other, eating simply, just chicken and rice. But the moment was layered. Comfort, history, something else, neither of them had named yet. After dinner, Malia rinsed dishes. Noah dried. She passed him a bowl, their fingers brushing. She didn't pull away. Neither did he. She placed the last plate on the rack and turned to him. Do you remember the storm in Chicago? He smiled. The night we stayed in, and you told me you hated hotels because they smelled like fabric softener and ambition? She laughed. Yeah, that one. I remember you falling asleep on the couch, and me pretending I wasn't watching you breathe. She leaned against the counter. Back then, I thought I could fix you, she said. He nodded. And I thought you'd never leave. But I did, and I never stopped feeling it. Silence. Then she asked quietly, do you still love me? He looked at her with that same gaze he used to give her in boardrooms, focused, intense, but now stripped of ego. Yes, he said, but not the way I used to. She tensed slightly. I don't love you like a man who wants to own you, he explained. I love you like a man who's ready to honor you. Her breath caught. He stepped closer. Slowly, she didn't move. His voice dropped. Tell me to stop, and I will. She didn't say a word. He reached out and gently tucked a curl behind her ear. The tension between them was soft but charged, their faces inches apart. He searched her eyes, waited, and then she leaned in and kissed him, not rushed, not planned, but real. And for the first time in years, it didn't feel like escaping anything. It felt like arriving. She kissed him softly. And Noah didn't press, didn't rush, didn't deepen it out of habit or hunger. He let it be what it was, slow, sweet, cautious. Malia was the first to pull away, her eyes still half closed, breath a little unsteady. Neither of them said anything right away, because there was nothing to explain. They stood there, two people who had once fallen in love under pressure and were now touching the edges of something new and very real. "I wasn't expecting that," she said finally, almost smiling. "Neither was I." He brushed a hand across her cheek, thumb gently skimming her skin. "It wasn't about missing what we had," she whispered. "No," he agreed. "It was about seeing what's still here." She stepped back slightly. "This doesn't fix everything. I don't want to fix it overnight," he said. "I just want to rebuild, if that's what you want too." Her eyes held him in place. "It is," she said, "but slowly." "Slowly," he repeated. He meant it. They moved to the couch. She brought out a blanket. He pulled off his shoes. They sat, side by side, and just talked. Not about Micah, not about the past, about music, about what she liked to cook now, about how he'd learned to iron his own shirts badly, about a book she'd read twice because it reminded her what survival looks like. They laughed, a lot, and it wasn't the laughter of people trying to fill silence. It was the laughter of people who remembered each other and liked what they found again. It got late, too late to walk out. Malia offered the guest room. Noah hesitated, then said, "Only if you're sure." "I am." She brought him a blanket, left the hallway light on, and paused at the door. "Good night, Noah." "Good night, Malia." But before she walked away, she looked back at him once more. "I meant what I said," she added. "Slow doesn't mean distant." He nodded. "And presence doesn't mean pressure." Their eyes locked, and in that one glance was everything they weren't ready to say, but finally ready to feel. In the guest room, Noah lay awake for a while, not anxious, not strategizing, just present. He could hear the faint sound of the house settling, the hum of the fridge, the soft creak of a ceiling fan. And in another room, his son slept peacefully. In another, the woman he'd once lost, and now refused to fumble, was building trust again. This wasn't a business deal. It wasn't a comeback. It was a beginning. And Noah Malone, the man who used to define himself by wins and losses, finally understood. The best things in life don't come with guarantees. They come with intention and patience and showing up every single day. The next few weeks passed without fanfare. There were no dramatic declarations, no overnight transformations, no sweeping gestures of reconciliation. Instead, it was the small things, the kind that build trust brick by brick. Noah showed up every morning, not because Malia asked, but because he wanted to. He knocked lightly at 7:45. Sometimes Micah answered the door, bouncing with excitement. Other times Malia did, still tying her apron, hair half-pinned, eyebrows raised in a silent, "You're early again." Noah always smiled and offered her coffee. She always accepted. He started taking Micah to school twice a week. Malia still handled everything else, lunches, homework, permission slips. But the morning drives gave Micah something he couldn't stop talking about. "Mommy, did you know Daddy listens to jazz in the car? Not like kid jazz, like real jazz with trumpets and everything." She'd chuckle. "Well, maybe you can play him some of your songs next time." Micah had a playlist called Super Cool Sounds that featured a chaotic mix of cartoon theme songs, classical music, and nature sounds. Noah listened to every second like it was an investment briefing. One day, as Micah climbed into the car, Malia noticed something that made her freeze for a second. Noah reached over and gently adjusted the boy's seatbelt. It was a casual gesture, instinctive and warm. She stood at the door, arms crossed, lips pressed together, silently watching the man. She'd once walked away from do the kind of parenting she never imagined he'd learn. And he didn't look uncomfortable. He looked at peace. Later that afternoon, when Malia returned from her shift, she found them in the living room, Micah showing Noah his science project, and Noah crouched on the floor, hands under his chin, nodding as though he were taking notes from a CEO. When Malia appeared in the doorway, Noah looked up, not startled, but grounded. "He says this planet is Pluto, but I thought they kicked Pluto out," Noah said. Micah jumped in. It's still my favorite. You can't just cancel planets. Malia laughed. He gets that stubborn streak from me. That night, after Micah went to bed, Malia brought 2 mugs of tea to the porch. Noah was already there, elbows on his knees, eyes on the sky. You ever think we'd get here? He asked. No, she said honestly. They sipped in silence for a moment. I'm not trying to make you forget what I did, or didn't do, he added. I just want to give you enough good days now that the old ones stop hurting as much. She didn't reply immediately, but she didn't walk away either. On Saturday, Micah begged them to visit the community garden 2 blocks away. He'd planted a tomato seedling there months ago, and now it was thriving. They all went. The sun was high, the sidewalk warm beneath their feet. Noah held the watering can. Micah wore rubber boots. Malia carried snacks and a quiet, steady sense of wonder at how natural this strange new routine had become. When Micah ran ahead, Noah slowed his pace beside her. He's got your laugh, he said. Malia glanced sideways. You think so? I know so. The kind of laugh that fills a room and makes people forget why they were tense. She smiled, but didn't speak. When they reached the garden bed, Micah was already kneeling beside his plant. It's so tall now, he cried. You did that, Noah said, crouching beside him. Micah beamed. Malia stood a few feet away, watching them like someone peeking into a life she once thought was impossible. Later, as they packed up to leave, a neighbor passed by and said cheerfully, Your husband and son make a great team. Malia froze. Noah looked at her, waiting. She answered with a small smile. Yeah, they do. They didn't correct the woman. Back home, while Micah showered, Noah sat at the kitchen table. Malia placed 2 bowls of soup in front of them, hesitated, then sat across from him. You're not trying too hard anymore, she said. He looked up, curious. Too hard? You used to come with grand plans and big gestures, like everything had to be earned in one moment. He nodded slowly. And now? You're just... Here. He reached for his spoon. I think I finally learned that showing up matters more than showing off. She smiled. And in that moment she realized she wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop anymore. She wasn't bracing for him to disappear again or disappoint her. She was beginning to believe that this version of Noah, the steady, present, human one, wasn't temporary. After dinner, as he stood to leave, she walked him to the door. Same time tomorrow? He asked. She nodded. He lingered for a second, then leaned down, not to kiss her, not to push, but to rest his forehead lightly against hers. It was quiet, warm, safe. Thank you, he said. She didn't ask for what. She didn't need to. When she closed the door behind him, she realized something else. This wasn't rebuilding what they had. This was building something better, something slower, something real. And for the first time since the day she ran, she wasn't afraid of it anymore. Sunday afternoon sunlight streamed through the windows, casting long golden shapes on the wooden floor of the cafe. Malia was at the counter, her apron dusted with flour, quietly icing cupcakes for a last-minute order. In the corner, Micah sat with Noah, a pair of scissors in his hand and construction paper spread across the table. They were building a rocket, Micah's latest obsession, and Noah, with sleeves rolled and tie abandoned, was deeply invested in the task. No. This flap has to fold under, like this, Micah instructed, pointing with a serious expression. Noah squinted, tongue pressed to the corner of his mouth. Under. Are you sure? Positive, Micah said, sounding eerily like Malia when she gave instructions. She watched them out of the corner of her eye and smiled. Her heart still tried to brace itself sometimes. For distance, for disappointment. But every day Noah stayed, listened, adjusted. Something in her softened more. You know, Carmen said quietly as she entered from the back room, I haven't seen him miss a single morning since he found out. Malia nodded, still frosting. Carmen leaned her hip on the counter. He's not playing a role anymore. I know. Does he know you're still scared? Malia's hands paused for half a second. Yes, she said quietly. And he doesn't push. Then maybe that's exactly why you can start trusting again. Malia looked back at them. Micah had just glued a lopsided booster to the side of the cardboard. Rocket, and Noah gave him a full applause like it was a masterpiece. She smiled. He's learning from Micah just as much as Micah's learning from him, she murmured. Later that day, they took the rocket outside to launch it from the backyard. It didn't fly far, but Micah was thrilled. He called it a success and asked for ice cream to celebrate. They made homemade sundaes in the kitchen, and somehow Noah managed to get whipped cream on his shirt. Micah laughed so hard he almost fell off the stool. "I think your dad needs training," Malia joked, handing him a napkin. Noah grinned. "I wasn't built for whipped cream warfare." After Micah went to bed, Malia walked Noah to the door. There was no tension, just comfort. A new rhythm. Something earned. "I've been thinking," he said, turning to her. "Micah starts summer break in a few weeks." She nodded. "I'd like to plan something. A trip, nothing big, maybe a weekend at the lake. Just the three of us." Malia hesitated, not because she didn't want to say yes, but because something that once felt impossible now seemed natural. "Let's talk about it," she said. "Together." He smiled. "That's all I ask." She leaned against the doorframe. "Noah." He turned back. "I see the man you're becoming." His face softened. "You're the reason I ever tried." The next morning, she found a note tucked into the bag of groceries he'd dropped off. It read, "For the woman who made me want to be more than successful. You made me want to be whole." She read it 3 times before putting it away in the drawer next to Micah's birth certificate. That night, after a long shower and a quiet cup of tea, Malia sat at her small kitchen table and wrote something she hadn't written in years. A thank you letter, but not to Noah, to herself, for walking away when she had to, for coming back to herself before coming back to anyone else, for giving love another try, but this time on her terms. Because real love didn't just return, it stayed, even when it had to learn how to be present all over again. The auditorium at Micah's school buzzed with the restless energy of excited parents and fidgeting kids. Folding chairs creaked under proud relatives, and the scent of vanilla-scented programs filled the air. It was the school's end-of-year play, a chaotic, beloved tradition featuring handmade costumes, off-key songs, and wide-eyed children performing with everything they had. Micah stood backstage in a paper crown and gold cape. He was playing the Sun King in a quirky play called The Planet Parade, written by one of the third-grade teachers who believed science could be theatrical. Noah and Malia sat in the third row, right in the center. Together, no one stared. No one whispered, not that it would have mattered, because for the first time, Malia wasn't hiding, and Noah wasn't calculating. They were simply there, for their son. Noah wore a soft blue shirt, no jacket. He looked like a man at ease. Malia wore a sundress that Micah had picked out, saying, "You look like sunshine in this." She did. As the principal welcomed the parents, Noah leaned closer and whispered, "Do you think he's nervous?" Malia shook her head. "Micah doesn't know the meaning of stage fright. He's more worried about whether the cardboard planets will hold together." Noah smiled. "He's got your courage." "No, he's got our resilience." The lights dimmed and the curtain rose. The first act was chaos. Jupiter forgot his line. Mercury tripped over a shoelace and Saturn sneezed in the middle of a song. But when Micah stepped onto the stage in his oversized crown, hands on hips, and declared, "I am the Sun King and I bring the light," something shifted in the room. He owned the moment. Every parent smiled. Every child looked up to him. Noah didn't blink the entire time, and Malia, sitting quietly beside him, felt the sharp ache of pride catch in her throat. Their son had a presence, a spark, not just inherited, but nurtured. He spotted them in the crowd, mid-monologue, and gave the smallest grin. Noah smiled back, didn't wave, just gave a subtle thumbs up. Micah finished strong. The audience clapped. Malia wiped away a tear. When the play ended, the kids ran out to their families. Micah barreled toward them. "I did it. You crushed it, Sun King," Noah said, sweeping him up into a bear hug. "You were brilliant," Malia added, kissing his cheek. Micah beamed. "Did I mess up?" Noah shook his head. Not once. They took a photo together, Micah in costume between them, their arms wrapped around him. It wasn't forced. It wasn't staged. It was natural. A family. Afterward, they went to the cafe for a small celebration. Carmen had decorated a table with yellow balloons and a homemade cake that read, "Micah, our shining star." Neighbors stopped by to offer hugs. No one mentioned the word father. They didn't have to. Micah kept holding Noah's hand between bites of cake. Later that evening, when the cafe was quiet again and the balloons had lost their tension, Noah sat on the steps outside, watching the street. Malia joined him, holding 2 slices of leftover cake. They sat in silence, shoulders touching, sharing bites and memories. "He was incredible," Noah said, voice soft. "He was," Malia agreed. "And so were you." Noah stared ahead. "There was a time I would have watched that kind of moment through a phone screen. Or not at all. But you didn't." "No. And I never will again." She looked over at him, the soft evening light casting gold across his profile. "Have you ever thought about staying?" He turned to her. "I already am." "No, I mean—" She hesitated. "Making this permanent, a life here, not just hotel visits and flexible trips." Noah nodded slowly. "I've thought about it every day since I first saw him in that park." Malia's heart beat a little faster. "I'm ready to build something rooted," he added. "Not just for Micah, for us, if you'll let me." She stared at him. This wasn't a man trying to buy her back. This wasn't an apology in disguise. This was a man, full of flaws, full of growth, standing in front of her, not with power, but with presence. And she knew her answer. Not tonight, but soon, because this time they weren't rushing. They were planting and watching something real grow. 1 week later, Malia sat at the back of the cafe with her Aunt Carmen, reviewing invoices and deciding whether to expand the pastry line. Business had been steady. Tourists had discovered them, and locals never left. The cafe had a heartbeat of its own, something Malia had built from quiet resilience. Carmen looked over her glasses. "You've been smiling a lot lately." Malia tried to brush it off, but her grin betrayed her. "Micah's thriving," she said. "That's not what I meant." Malia closed the binder and leaned back. "Noah's different. He's still who he is, but gentler, slower to speak, quicker to listen. And he's not trying to take over. He just shows up. Every time." Carmen chuckled. "That man used to walk like he owned the clouds. Now he waits outside with an umbrella, just in case your boy forgets his raincoat." Malia smiled softly. "He's not chasing redemption. He's just trying to be present." Outside, Micah was playing hopscotch on the chalk-drawn grid Noah had made that morning. His laughter echoed through the open door, and beside him, crouched down, was Noah, counting steps, clapping when Micah landed the jump. Not looking at his phone, not wearing a suit, just being a dad. Later that afternoon, the 3 of them walked home together. The air was warm, the sidewalk scattered with magnolia petals. Micah skipped ahead. Malia walked beside Noah. "He wants to learn chess," Noah said. Malia raised a brow. "You're sure you want to teach him?" "I'll go easy on him. He'll beat you by summer." "I hope he does." She laughed, and he took her hand. She didn't pull away. They passed the corner bookstore, the school, and the house with the pink flamingo in the yard, Micah's favorite landmark. At the gate, Malia paused. "You can stay for dinner if you want," she said, eyes searching his. "I was hoping you'd ask." Inside, Micah raced to set the table. Mismatched plates, plastic cups, a cloth napkin with jelly stains. It wasn't a penthouse dining experience, but Noah looked at it like it was gold. Dinner was meatloaf, cornbread, and green beans. Micah told a long-winded story about a class lizard named Jamal. Noah listened like he was being paid to memorize every word. After dinner, Malia washed the dishes while Noah helped Micah brush his teeth. "Can you tuck me in?" Micah asked. "Yeah," Noah said, his voice thick. Micah climbed into bed, pulling the quilt up to his chin. Did I do good at the play? You were amazing, Mom cried. I saw. Micah leaned in. Do you think we can always stay like this? Noah's heart clenched. I hope so, buddy. Micah nodded. Good. Noah sat by the bed until Micah's breathing evened out. He turned off the light and stepped into the hallway, where Malia stood, drying her hands with a dish towel. Their eyes locked. He moved closer. You built something beautiful here. We did. Noah touched her cheek. I'm not asking to change it. I just want to belong. You already do. They kissed again. Slower this time. Deeper. There was no hesitation in her touch now. No question in his embrace. That night, Noah didn't go back to the hotel. He stayed. Not for convenience, but because it finally felt like home. Weeks passed. Malia and Noah didn't announce anything to the world. There was no engagement, no headline, just steady days, shared lunches, homework at the table, walks after dinner, family therapy, sessions, led by Noah's idea, honest talks, free of ego. He let go of the empire to hold what mattered, not abandon it, balance it. Eventually, he bought a modest home just 10 minutes away, not a mansion, not a fortress, a home with a front porch, a tire swing, and room to breathe. Micah picked out the mailbox. Malia painted the kitchen yellow. Every inch of that home was layered in second chances, and one Sunday morning, as sunlight poured across the breakfast table, Micah said, Hey Mom, hey Dad, this is the best day ever. Malia and Noah looked at each other. He reached for her hand. She smiled, and in that quiet morning, with pancakes on their plates, syrup on Micah's cheek, and laughter echoing in the walls, they knew. They didn't go back to what they were. They built something new, together. If this story moved you, warmed your heart, or reminded you of second chances, don't keep it to yourself. Like, comment, and share this video with someone who still believes in real love. And if you haven't subscribed to Mr. Charles Stories, hit that button now. More unforgettable love stories are waiting for you.